to episode 11 of the Modcast. Joining us today will be Kris Takahashi. Hey Kris, how you doing?
Hey.
Awesome. And our special guest today will be Kinggath of Sim Settlements fame. Hey King, how you doing?
I am doing good.
Awesome.
It feels so awkward to hear that my name pronounced like that.
Okay.
It's better than Kinggath, though.
Alright, well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Kinggath or Kinggath? Or...
No, I think it's just you. I think the G's kind of roll together when you look at it and say it. But usually you can go with King or Gath, or you can go with Kinggath. It's fine, whatever.
I like King, or how about my liege?
Your Highness?
Does that work?
All of the above work well.
Okay, awesome.
Feels like I'm talking to royalty. It's like a big day for me now.
Yes, I feel honored in your presence. You're my liege. Okay, so why don't we start from the top? Can you tell us how obviously you've done all these big mods like Sim Settlements and Salvage Beacons for Fallout 4, but can you tell us how you started? Did you start in Skyrim or Oblivion or Fallout 3 or?
I started like way back with Quake. Quake 3, I think, was the first one that I really got into. But I did it under a different name that will never be revealed. The mods, that was like when I was a teenager, so the mods were like really awful, like super politically incorrect and just bad in general, like across the board. And then I got involved with a lot of total conversion teams, which tried to redo the whole game as something new, and and pretty much every one of them failed. So I don't even have anything like good on my resume that I could show from back then. And then I got into Half-Life modding, like the original Half-Life, and again had nothing to show for it, all teenager angsty stuff. And then kind of took a break from games for a few years, like just didn't play any video games for probably 4 or 5 years. And when I came back, Skyrim was out, and that I got a little modding done, but it was all just for personal use. And then when Fallout 4 hit, like I absolutely love the Fallout franchise. Like that's my favorite video game franchise. So Fallout 4 hit, and it was time. It was time to return to modding.
And how did you come up with something like did Sim Settlements just organically appear, or was that always in the pipeline? Like you were going to do Salvage Beacons first, and then Sim Settlements was going to come, or did it just sort of organically just sort of appear out of nowhere while you were, modding the game?
So I kind of got into this habit because I had been modding games before. Whenever I started playing a new game, I would literally have a notebook handy and just write notes about things I didn't like about the game. And then when I finished Fallout 4, I had like several pages, and this was like early on. Yeah, this was like early on, and because yeah, exactly, there was quite a laundry list of complaints. And then because they took so long to release the mod tools, I kind of just went away for a while and waited until after they released all the DLC and stuff. And then I just downloaded all the mods that like satisfied all the needs I had, and there were still a few holes on my list. And I was like, I'm gonna just build one mega mod that does all the things I want. And I realized like diving in, and the biggest one for me was that settlement gameplay just felt like something tacked on. Like it didn't feel like part of the rest of the game, because it didn't really matter. Like you could just avoid it and it was fine. And when I started playing, the first time I played through, I built up a couple of settlements, and I was like, this is awesome. Like I can't wait to see like how this all unfolds. And then it's like not tied in to your faction choice, and the raids don't matter, and like you could just kill the settlers, just shoot them in the face, and it's fine. And so it's all like, okay, this needs to change.
Don't they actively encourage that in like the recent versions? They have like torture devices and stuff like that.
I think so. Yeah, don't they have like a thing where you put their hands and head in, like the stockade?
Oh god, yeah.
Unless you're talking about all the kinky mods,
so you can launch Mama Murphy halfway across the map. Yeah, it was definitely something that sort of put in. I think it was something that they put at the end, like someone managed to sort of figure it out, and then it just sort of got shoved in the game. So
there's actually a lot of like depth in if you like dig into their scripts and stuff. There's a lot more stuff they were going to do with it. So I actually think they might have started it earlier than we think, but I think that it probably just hit the chopping block. It was like, we've gone far enough, because you got to work with that. There's always deadlines and stuff. I mean, even with Sim Settlements, I set deadlines for myself, and then like features end up getting cut or delayed because I want to hit that date. So, and I'm not even getting paid. So you can imagine like in a big studio, they probably have to do that at a much fiercer level.
What kind of stuff
but there
were they working on before they had to chop it up?
The coolest thing I found in there was code for basically letting the different factions take over settlements, and like it seems like there's little hints that it might have become like a war for settlements, to where like Institute could take over a faction and then you could fight them to take it back, or things like that. Like it looked like it was going to be way more involved.
That was kind of implied, wasn't it? So like the Brotherhood would take over a settlement but get food from it or something like that. And something like that.
Yeah. I was saying, I think they kind of did that. They were kind of going toward that with Skyrim, with the like, didn't the Civil War mod like they found a bunch of content that was cut where they were going to try and do that kind of thing with Skyrim?
Yeah, it was always going to be like a real-time strategy. And now it's like making me think that Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5 will be their real-time, strategy, finally, they finally got it, I think they've always maybe been trying to do it, I guess.
That would be very cool.
That might work as a spin-off game if they just made a real-time strategy game and just used various factions that have been at war with each other.
I mean, every time it seems like they're trying to make any other game but an RPG.
But
I mean, this game in particular, they're trying to implement different influences, right? You have the BioWare influence, you have the real-time strategy influence, so you could see that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like experimenting going on, which I like. I'm glad they did it. Like I think even Todd Howard has said he's glad they tried the voice thing, even though maybe it didn't pan out as well as they wanted. Because otherwise, it would have just been like this festering thing of like, what, we should do it, we should try it, and then now they got it out of the way.
Yeah, I definitely like it. It just sometimes it doesn't seem as absorbed in the game, as it were. So like maybe the settlement, like on one hand, settlements are completely necessary for you to progress, but on the other hand, they don't feel as involved with the whole universe, as it were.
Yeah, and that's so what actually sparked me to do Sim Settlements is I after all the DLC came out, like I was like, all right, the final patch will be out in a couple weeks, I can start modding soon. I'm going to do one more playthrough, play all the DLC, and like I'm going to actually take my time and do survival mode, like do all the things, like re-experience Fallout 4 again. And I was doing that, and I was like intricately building my settlement out, like Sanctuary. Like I was actually using OC Decorator and like putting down props everywhere. And then I finished, and then I was just like, there's no way in hell I'm doing that again. Like there's just no way to do all of that work. So then it was like logged off and started working on some settlements and never logged back in.
Is the I have a question. The like modding background, the programming background, does that come from just like job experience, or was it like the early mods that you did make for other games that sort of helped you learn like the coding and all that?
I learned C++ so that I could mod Quake 3 because it used it just used C++, which was awesome. And then I kind of built on that experience for work, and like ended up getting work doing programming and computer stuff. So now I'm in like UI design and backend software, so I do a ton of like user interface things, and so it ends up playing itself really well to making video games.
Magic, got it.
All right, and so what do you so we're talking about the mod pass. What do you think about the modding future? What do you think about things like Creation Club and or generally monetized modding and things like that?
I think it was kind of inevitable, like the fact that Bethesda has like supporting mods officially now. The mod scene for like GTA 5 is pretty massive. I think like when you get enough people who want that stuff, like there's somebody's gonna monetize it. Like it was gonna happen. And I think there's not only was it going to happen, but I think there's a need for it because there are a lot of people who will not put up with the crap that a lot of us do to mod. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I have jumped through some serious hoops to play mods in my past. Like trying to make like mods work for StarCraft. Like it's so much work. And I know it's a lot easier now, like especially in games like Fallout and Xbox, but there's still like compatibility issues and bugs to deal with that the average player who's never experienced this, especially like console players, they're going to walk in and be like, I'm not dealing with that. Like, that's not fun. There's so many options for video games and stuff you can do. Like, why would you put up with that? So like something like, for example, the Creation Club, like makes sense for them because it's something that's just like, it just feels like it doesn't feel like a mod. It just feels like a new piece of content from that company that's going to just work.
Definitely. So how do you feel like it's gone so far? How do you feel like the experiment has gone for 6 months into the great experiment of Creation Club?
I mean, their first offerings were kind of trash. It was basically like overpriced, like not like they keep calling it mini DLC, but I don't think that's right. I think it's close. It's most closely related to microtransactions, which, you know, there's obviously a huge market for that. And that's what that stuff looked like to me. It was just like, oh, they took the same pricing model used for like every other game and just applied that to Fallout, which felt odd to me because like Bethesda games are single player, so it's kind of a whole different thing. But I guess it makes more sense for them to start high and then lower the prices, as opposed to if you start too low, you can't really raise the prices. And like, so the content so far, most of it I thought was kind of lame, but this new stuff they just put out last week, I think is awesome. Like, I love the donut shop kit and the arcade. Those are fantastic. I think those are where that's the type of stuff they should be making. Cause it's deep. It adds something new. I can't really speak to the price on it. I don't know what the right value point is. I'm sure they've got that stuff figured out by now, though. After 6 months of this, they know what to price it at that people will actually pay for it. But I picked up that donut kit because I think it's awesome.
See, I've been keeping a sort of bit of a long distance away from the donut kit because I'm worried it's going to give me a diabetic coma as soon as I install it. So I just sort of try and keep away from that. I have installed the Tunnel Snake mod, which I suppose is like the very first like narrative-based thing. So, you know, there is that. So that might be indicative of the future of Creation Club, more narrative-based stuff, and obviously the community responds to it better than the first stuff you mentioned. Like that came out like 5 or 6 months ago. So
yeah, how is the Tunnel Snake thing? I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's like, but it's sort of like it's sort of. You know, it's like a quest where there's a gun, and you go through this dungeon and you discover the fate of the tunnel snakes from Fallout 3. So
it's basically like fan service too, because if it's like tunnel snakes rule, you know, you get that nostalgia hit,
yeah,
little dopamine hit for tunnel snake jackets and things like that.
So like, obviously this is like a new future, obviously, because obviously games are going to become more and more microtransaction based. So have you been observing like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Shadow of War, which is probably closer, which is like a single player Lord of the Rings game where they do transactions as well?
I love the Shadow of Mordor is such an amazing game, and then when I saw them do that to Shadow of War, I was pretty upset. But like, I'm not a huge, like, I don't like to engage with microtransactions generally, although I am a Hearthstone addict, so I do drop plenty of money on packs there, so I'm kind of guilty of perpetuating the machine. I'm not sure where to stand on it. Like, I think that we've kind of allowed it to grow because like we basically as gamers decided it was okay to do as long as the game was free to play, even though a lot of these games, they're not. It's if you don't pay, like if you don't invest some money, you just can't keep up if you're trying to, like, especially if you're trying to be competitive. Like, there's no way you can play Hearthstone free and actually ladder. Like, it just doesn't work. You have to invest some money, or you're gonna, by the time you get enough decent cards from just grinding the in-game currency, the metal will have shifted and the season's over. So like, I think we've kind of like let it happen, and I think it's too late to stop it now. I think those of us who like see it now and are just like, oh my god, the sky is falling, I think we're such a minority of gamers. So like, to me it seems like it's kind of it's never going away now. I do think that for like Bethesda games, it's kind of this weird situation where I don't see them really taking away like the modding that we're used to. I think they treat us like a different audience. Like, I think it's like PC gamers and like hardcore modders are like one faction, and then like people who like microtransaction content are something different. So like, I don't think the sky is even falling with Bethesda getting in on it. But I think that the backlash with EA with Battlefront 2, I think is gonna be a big deal. Like, they lost a lot of money on it, and I just read an article today actually where EA is literally blaming that their decisions there for not hitting their sales targets, and I think the industry's not gonna like ignore that. Like, that's especially because, like what I said earlier, there's so many gaming options now. Like, a stumble like that just spells doom for your game. It's like, all right, well, screw that game. Like, there's 50 other games I can play. So I think like I think that happening to Battlefront 2 was awesome. I think it kind of like was a reality check to EA and a lot of the game companies.
Well, EA actually reintroduced the microtransactions today.
Oh, really? Is it in the same form of like where you're basically
the exact same form?
You're locked out competitively unless you participate? Because that was the big problem with them, right? Is that all of the Battlefront 2 stuff was like damage boosts and things that actually affected your gameplay as opposed to just what do you call it, aesthetic stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. That's like the kind of microtransactions which make you sort of push you off and kind of makes you feel like that this is unjust. If you know what I mean, like you're paying for cheats.
I think the things where we're paying for cheats, those are the ones we have to rally against. Like those ones we gotta just put our feet down and say no, because that's like then it goes against, especially when you're talking competitive and online stuff. Like that just can't fly. I'm fine paying a few bucks for an extra experience, like where I get some fun experience out of it. But that type of thing is just, you're literally, like you said, you're paying for cheat codes. Like why? I don't get it. I'm not much of a multiplayer gamer anyway, so anymore. So that kind of, I don't really run into that stuff, so I don't feel like I have to deal with it that much. Like I said, Hearthstone would be the one exception where I'm doing multiplayer gaming. And I'm actually investing in the system. And I guess really like Hearthstone is that same way. You're kind of paying to cheat essentially because you're buying the like better cards. It's kind of the same system.
But it's kind of, it has a kind of analog in real life because you do that in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and it's just as much a scam in real life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but I think where the EA thing comes from, like basically they've been doing it in their sports games for like years, where people have been buying, buff ups for FIFA and basketball and things like that, and now they've sort of said, why not bring it to the Star Wars? So I mean, I think they're ready to sort of brute force that model, which is a shame, really. Because I don't mind the microtransactions model, but it just has to have some sense of like everything, like value, So like, say, I don't know if you've ever played it, like a game of like Mass Effect 3, where you buy an extra companion, for example, like the Pro-Tune companion. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know about their microtransactions, but I loved Mass Effect. So, well, aside from the new one, but anyway. I don't know about what their microtransaction model was.
Well, no, like obviously it was like little smaller DLCs. Like instead of like a big expansion pack, like of yesteryear, it was like, oh, you buy Javik, which is like a protein companion, or you buy a mission, and it might be like £5 or like £2 for a companion, and that to me always sounded not only reasonable but like something interesting because you're paying for something you want extra. Where now they're
it's like paying to go to the movies or something. You're getting an experience for your money.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Chris, on that?
Like I don't really mind microtransactions in terms of just as long as they're not cheats, if they're just sort of a way to recoup the money that they should have been getting if we didn't have like inflation and all that, because I think video games are way underpriced compared to.
I agree 100%.
So because of that, they need to recoup their money somehow. I mean, I don't mind that. I just, for me, my bigger concern is just, with EA is like they're talking about like taking away the single player experience because they're trying to find other ways to get that money, to recoup that money. So they're kind of tilting more toward these, Destiny 2 type games where it's just like you're online constantly, and then you're sort of incentivized to buy extra like buffs or extra stuff like that. So it's the type of game that worries me more than like these separate transactions, because I know that didn't they kill a Star Wars game that was supposed to be kind of like Uncharted?
Yeah.
And didn't they also there's like Axe Dragon Age, I think?
They haven't Axe Dragon Age, but they're trying to retool it into a Destiny type game.
Ugh.
Yeah. See, so I mean, that my concern would be more along those lines, or like, I mean, if there's going to be like little microtransactions like for gun or for armor or something that I'm never going to buy anyway, like, I'm an adult, I can avoid those things. Not all of them, because some of them are really cool, I want to buy them, but that to me isn't that bad. It's more of just like, where is the focus going to be? If you're that driven by avarice or greed, are you going to make the base game different? Are you going to change the focus of the base game to take away from single player role-playing games and toward multiplayer, toward these things where it's more of a cash cow?
I mean, to me, it seems like we're just going through the same thing we went through in the early 2000s, which is where every game became an MMO. And then like when the market gets saturated, those stop making money and the companies retreat back to making single player stuff again. So it's kind of a pendulum thing. I think we're just kind of in a shitty spot for games right now.
I know, but it definitely feels like single player is just really taking a hit. I mean, EA just been going on an anti-single player, like anti-fun route for the last. I mean, I don't want to turn this like an anti-EA stream, like, but like it's just like I remember some of my
Sim settlements about
some of my favorite games are like Bullfrog games, like Theme Hospital and Dungeon Keeper. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I just love them so much.
Oh yeah,
they got rid of Bullfrog, and now like, BioWare's going to go in like a year, So it's just like, it's like Activision.
Well, but those people are still out there. Like we've got those great game developers. They still are out there and like looking for homes and making projects. Like, even though we don't have Obsidian making Fallout games, like their team and like their best people are still making RPGs. Like they're still out there making stuff. So I think that like they're just kind of have to bide their time until this wave of crappy Destiny clones passes.
Yeah, so there's that whole AA market, like on Steam, for example, which like blows up in places like Twitch. So it just tells you that the appetite for those kind of games are still there. So like in terms of like the past where we all like to live, I mean, like Sim Settlements came around. So Sim Settlements, like the name, is it just like an accident? You just thought, oh well, the settlement builds itself, or are you a fan of like Sim City or those kind of old godlike games?
Oh, I love all those old games. I can't play them anymore. Like I think that City Skylines was really good, but like the rest of the retakes, attempts to like bring back Dungeon Keeper or the last SimCity game, like none of them really capture that old feel. You mentioned before we started Sim Ant. Oh, I love that game. That was one of my favorite like SNES games, or maybe was it on regular Nintendo or SNES?
Anyway, it's SNES, but it's also a joke. But go on, sorry.
I loved that game. I love all those the Sim games, the Dungeon Keeper series, StarCraft. Well, I guess that's not really the same. StarCraft isn't the same thing, but anything like where I'm overhead controlling like RTSs and like city building, I love all that stuff.
I mean, like I've played City Skylines a little bit. I tried to like boot up SimCity 4 and a few other games. It just seems these days you just don't have enough time to play these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean I'm kind of at that point. Like I don't even really have time to play Sim Settlements properly. Like I definitely play it as far as like I'm testing it all the time and making sure that it works, but I don't ever think I get the full experience that players do from a fresh start. There's just not enough time.
Yeah. So like and in terms of like Sim Settlements really blew up. So like how did you expect it to blow up? Did you expect to think that there was a gap in the market and that you would sort of slip in there, or were you like genuinely surprised by the reception you got and the kind of domain you've created for yourself for Sim Settlements and stuff?
It completely like upended everything for me. Like I had no idea what was coming. When I did Salvage Beacons, I had a good run with it. Like I hit hot files, and I think I ended up with like 60,000-70,000 users before I started with Sim Settlements. And I sent Sim Settlements to a couple of people to try out when I was like maybe 2 months before release, and they kept telling me this is huge, this is gonna explode, and I didn't buy it. Like I was just like, I think most people like to build their own stuff. And then when it took off like it did, it literally became almost like second job for me. I would say the first 2 months, it would take me about 4 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer all the questions and bug reports that people were turning in. And that was with help. Like literally it was just nonstop. And it's gotten to the point now where we've got like a big team, we've got like a community of moderators, and I literally wouldn't have time to work on the mod and answer all of the questions. So like I have had to let other people take over a lot of that, which I hate because I love interacting with people who like the mod and want to know about it. But it's literally like it gets demoralizing to like go on to my Nexus page now, because not demoralizing because like there's downloads, but because if I answer a question or knock out a bug report, there will be 5 more by the time I hit submit. Like it's absolutely crazy.
Wow. I mean, I just turned off the bug reports.
I mean, I like getting the information in a nice, easy format to where like I know the problems, because I'm kind of OCD about like knocking out all the bugs, which is why I patch every week, because so like I would never find out about them if I blocked the bug reports, but it is like impossible to keep up with. Like it's just impossible, especially like the bug reports that aren't bug reports, where it's just like conflicts or people use it to make suggestions. So it's kind of a mixed bag about what you get out of the bug reports.
I mean, a lot of times like 80% of the reports aren't actually reports. They're just like installation fails, or just like I like to tell people that one of the things they don't tell you about Endorsement Mountain is like when you reach the top, there's just like a customer service desk waiting there for you, and you just sit down and you have a new job. It's to be a customer service representative for like half your day. So
it really is. I think anybody who fights the Creation Club needs to understand that there's a need for that stuff for that reason alone. Like you've got it, like for somebody else to take on the customer service for the people who are making that stuff, like because there are enough people out there, especially like with Rise of the Commonwealth. It brought in a ton of new players who didn't like settlements, and you get these there's a big group of people. We always refer to them as entitled players, I think, in the community, but that feel like you owe them, and like that if it doesn't work immediately, like they start trash talking and stuff. And like a lot of those players I think come from console because they're just not used to they don't understand like how mods work, and the fact that like somebody or some group of people is just putting in their personal free time for this and makes no money on it. And so like those players, they need to have somewhere to go, and it should be to a big company who can handle it.
And people who are trained to be like nice and respectful and understanding, and and not like, you know, mod authors like me are just like angry and bitter.
I actually have a big customer service background, so for me that part's not hard, but you need like a whole department to run it, like once you get to a certain point.
Yeah. Well, I imagine, especially for a mod like yours, where it's relying on scripts, relying on like programming skill, there's gonna be, just because of the type of game that a Bethesda game is, where you can almost do anything, that there's that much more that could go wrong. So just it's an amazing accomplishment, I should say, just to be able to not only create the mod that you've made, but also create the team and the infrastructure to like handle QA, handle all that, like basically for free, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get a fair number of donations, but I pretty much put all of them into the mod. So like, you know, I've bought a few sound effects. I have paid for like a web server, and I'm actually going to be launching another community website soon. That's going to need. So I've been it's basically for free. All the money gets pumped back into the project.
Yeah, and like I said, like I mean, I don't know if everyone can appreciate, just like the average player, but just like as another mod author, you could, man, just looking at it, it's like, wow, like you could really appreciate the amount of work and effort that went into it. So,
well, thank you.
Hats off to you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so and now let's talk about the future. Is there anything? So obviously you've done sim settlements. You've allowed people to create their own little settlements in the middle of nowhere, and now people can create their own factories and rows of factories, and now people can build their own cities. So is there anything that you like have in mind for the future, like for sim settlements, or is there something you really want to do, or have an idea that you really aspire to make?
Yeah, there's quite a few things I still have left to do, actually. I anticipate that sim settlements is going to be my one contribution to Fallout 4. I think it's going to be kind of my thing until the next Bethesda game, and then I'll probably jump ship and go to that game, whether it be Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5, although it seems like maybe we're going to get some new IP before then, so who knows. But with sim settlements, like stuff coming down the pipes right now, so like Rise of the Commonwealth has it so that you can tell the settlers to build a whole city. Well, we have like pre-configured designs for those, and they're altered based on the plots that are on there from Sim Settlements. And I have a new toolkit coming out and a whole new mod to allow players to make their own versions and then export them and release them. So like that's going to be that's something that's like a huge project. It's a lot harder to do than for the plots for the add-on packs that people make for Sim Settlements. It was just like I just made a bunch of PDF tutorials of like, here's how you do the stuff in the creation kit. Well, these city plans can't be really made in the creation kit. You have to make them with like a third party, like a tool I wrote. So it's a lot more complex, but I'm trying to make it so simple that anybody can do it. Like anybody who just likes, like as simple as exporting with transfer settlements. Like that's what I'm trying to get to, so that everybody can contribute their own designs to the system. So that's kind of the big thing I'm focused on right now, and it's going to take a while.
You mentioned the user aspect, that you actually have a system where like users can actually submit their own little building that they can add to the settlement that other people can download. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, or do you have any like favorite like things that users have added to your system?
Yeah. So when I started designing Sim Settlements, I knew that the only way it was really gonna work well is if we had like hundreds of building plans, or building designs. And after I designed a handful of them, I'm like, this is impossible for me to do as one person. But I didn't have the pull to recruit anybody at that point. Like I had salvage beacons under my belt, but that wasn't really enough to be like, hey, I need volunteers. So I built up kind of like a framework, like of like one of each shop type, and like one farm, and one of everything, just so to like kind of show people how it worked. And then I built it with, I used a lot of form lists and things that are open that could be added to from other mods. And then I just designed it so that anybody could add their own things into it. And that has allowed us to collect, I think we're up to like 30 different add-on packs that people have created. And almost every single one of them had never modded in their life. So that's been another like kind of passion, is to help people get past that first hump of modding, because modding is so damn intimidating when you start. Like you have no idea how to begin. And so I've kind of created like a gateway for people to get started, and that's been really awesome to see, like all these people who've never done it before, like hitting hot files. Like it feels so good.
Nice. Do you have like a favorite or anything like that, or like one that's like notable that stands out in your head that someone has?
I think I really like ruined homes and gardens. That one, I think his buildings are all way better than mine. So that's the one I tell people to go grab if they're tired of my crappy looking buildings. Okay,
well, so sounds good. You think you'll ever do something like a sim wasteland, like the whole Commonwealth will just build itself, and you don't really need to even leave the vault. You can just sit in your little cryo freezer and do nothing while everyone else looks for Sean. That might be like a good idea, would it? Where like it's just an automated game.
Yeah, sometimes I think that's what players want. I think that like you get enough requests for automation, and I start thinking like, I don't think you actually want to play a video game anymore.
Never underestimate our laziness. The laziness of the average gamer. We don't want to do anything.
But yeah, I have a couple other things I want to do. I would say unless, and it's always hard to judge this stuff, because like if in order to kind of, because now I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm trying to one up myself, and it gets to the point where each iteration takes longer. So like the first expansion took like 4 months. And then this one took about 6 months, a little longer, because we actually started it in May, but there wasn't a lot of people committed to it. And then so like if I'm going to one up it again, you're talking probably 8 or 9 months. So like each one gets longer and longer to do if I want to try and like do things that are bigger and crazier. So if real life permits it, so like, you know, I've got a new kid. My son was born last July. And so like,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't commit my whole life to modding anymore. So like I've got a job, got a family. So like I've got to kind of temper the amount of time I put into it. But if all things went well and I got to put in the amount of time I wanted to, I have at least 2 more expansions planned for Sim Settlements in my head. And one of them is actually already started. There's actually been one that's been in development for a few months. I kind of get excited about an idea, and then I get a team working on it, and then so we have, so far since Sim Settlements have come out, I've always had 2 projects running behind, like that are kind of in development by another team while I'm charging with the current one.
Nice. And have you ever with Chris here, have you ever thought about adding, like, obviously Sim Settlements has a sort of kind of, it's more focused on the mechanics side. So have you ever thought about adding kind of, obviously kind of predecessors like SimCity don't necessarily have this, but have you ever thought about adding a kind of narrative side, like a quest based system or NPCs, which kind of
doesn't Sim Settlements add notes or background information to existing settlers, if I'm not mistaken?
I did a little bit of that. So I think there are like around 20 what I call VIPs, where the settler gets kind of a background story and their house will show it. So it'll have like special things in it, like a cat lover will start acquiring cats each time the house upgrades, and then at the end they build one of those like crazy like cat things in the house where the cats can like walk up. I don't know what the hell those things are called, where there's like ramps and stuff. Anyway, so stuff like that where it'll kind of play out and show. Is that called a catwalk? Maybe. So like that, yeah. There's a little bit of that narrative in there, but definitely not enough to.
No, but it's really cool that there's an environmental aspect to it as well. I mean, if you're talking about not just like, I mean, it's one thing to just say, okay, this person loves cats, but to actually show that, you know, to have those cats start, like, you know, like surrounding her and she ages and starts to smell bad and all kinds of things like that.
But yeah, I think the narrative stuff would definitely fit in there in Sim Settlements. I think that a lot of people would like, because I've been kind of going outward. I think a lot of people would love to see it go inward and go kind of toward like Sims as opposed to Sim City. Because like even didn't some of the Sim Cities do that too, where like you could zoom in real close and like look at the people? Yeah,
like SimCity 4 kind of had this kind of thing with Sims 1. But obviously it changed a little bit. Yeah, that was kind of like that for a while.
There's actually, I have something, Chris, you might be able to tap into soon. So I'm working on what I call an API. It's not really an API, but I'm just going to call it that, for Sim Settlements, so that people can like throw more stuff into it. Because right now you can throw in buildings, but I have stuff set up to allow people to inject unique settlers and unique visitors into the settlements. So nice. Other mods will be able to add stuff like that. So I've kind of got a system brewing for people to do that.
And add voice acted dialogue and all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, like you were saying, there's a system in place, and you don't even have to be able to mod or use the creation kit to add those. I think that would open up new avenues to people who aren't familiar with the kit.
You definitely still need to be able to mod to add like the NPCs, but I think that's the type of thing where I could teach somebody easily, like here's how you set up a settler, and like here's how you manipulate their face in the creation kit, and that's a nice bite-sized chunk for somebody to learn. Whereas so I could like do it in a 3-page tutorial, and then somebody who had never modded before could easily, you know, build 50 settlers and throw them into the system.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you want to start small. Anytime you like want to, you know, if anyone's out there wants to learn how to make mods or contribute to mods, you always want to start small. You don't want to take on a big DLC project right away.
No total conversions.
It's so hard not to, though. To try and go for the big thing.
Don't let your dreams be memes, basically.
So like in terms of, so we talked about your mods a little bit. So do you have any like any mods that have inspired you, or any favorite mods that you just love playing with Fallout 4 that's like almost inspired you to mod, or mods that you just cannot not use for the game, like that stops you from even considering using vanilla, or just like mods?
The big one I've been using, it has nothing to do with the game, which is the Better Console mod. I cannot live without that anymore. But that's probably for development reasons, is I need to be able to click on things and see their name and form ID. But as far as like mods that I can't live without now, I would say the HUD framework stuff I love. Anything Reg 2K does, I get all excited about, because he somehow manages to always push the bounds of what the game can do without having to go to F4SE, which to me, that's always what I like. I love the script extender. It's really cool, but I like to see what people can pull off in the confines of the game itself. So like, especially with Xbox players out there, being able to pull off something without the script extender is always like the farther that somebody can push that, the more excited I get about it. So I think with his the third person combat thing, where you could actually use I think it was called Take Cover or something like that. Yeah. I don't play the game enough to actually use it now because I spend most of my time developing, but that was one of the mods that I was like blown away with, where I was just like, okay, I gotta try and reach that level of cool factor without having to go to the script extender.
Nice.
I'm looking through my mod list right now, trying to see if there's any others.
I kind of like that myself. I just like sort of going straight to the script extender. I'm on a sort of project right now that's kind of shifted straight to the script extender, and you just feel like we've never had such a great scripting engine that can do so much, that you don't really need to go to the script extender with about 12 new functions before testing like the full extent of this new engine, as it were. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, the jump from scripting capabilities from Fallout or from Skyrim to Fallout 4 is crazy good. Like there's so much new stuff to work with and things you could never pull off in Skyrim. So I would say outside of Reg 2K stuff, the one that was like absolutely insane to me is transfer settlements. Like that's the kind of thing where I am shocked that Bethesda didn't build in. Like that would have been a hugely popular service to just have settlement sharing as part of the core game, where you could just upload settlement designs and have people download them. Like I'm shocked that that's just not part of the game, because I think that's kind of what a lot of those like the old SimCities, well, not the old ones, the more modern SimCities did that, where it was like about you could share what you had done. So to me that felt like an automatic. Like why wouldn't you include that? That's such a cool social feature which brings people to your games.
Yeah, and it's also good for people who can't build settlements of their own, or they're like me, they just like lack the creativity to make interesting settlements. Like just to be able to like have access to this compilation of constructions or settlements that other people made is just a nice feature. I mean, like you said, it's brilliant, but at the same time, it seems like common sense. So I do get where you're coming from in that regard.
Maybe we can use last 10 minutes to talk about a little bit of mod news. We saw a new Nexus download manager called Vortex is out today or yesterday. Have you seen anything about that?
Yeah, a bunch of people on my Discord are playing around with it, and the first thing we noticed that was annoying, but Tannen bounced back and explained why it wasn't there, was the lack of manual load order, which I was really peeved by at first, because that's something I make use of a lot, especially when I'm testing, like to try and fix things. But apparently he's got all that sorted out in his head, so I think it's gonna end up being okay. I read through his post and it made sense to me at the time. I couldn't tell you what it said, but that was the only thing missing I saw from it. Otherwise, it seems like it's headed in the right direction. I think one of the things he mentioned I thought was really cool was that he could start collecting information about load orders that worked well, and then use that to kind of improve his system, like almost like an AI to improve like the actual load order.
Mm-hmm.
But what I haven't really dove into all the features that he's going to do. One of the features I was always hoping, and I thought that we need in the mod community, was a way to download a collection of mods. But after that like mod drop fiasco where everybody got up in arms, I don't know that that's ever going to happen. But I think for new players who are like, I want to try modding, I think that kind of feature, we kind of need it. We need something like as a gateway drug to be like, here, play this. Like, this is an awesome collection of mods. It all works together. You're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem with mod packs. That they sort of, I don't know. I feel like the Nexus has succeeded because it's given every modder a little wee feudal kingdom to call their own, no matter how small or big it is. And that's the reason why the Nexus has become top, effectively. So, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Minecraft had mod packs and things like that, but I've always felt like it actually disincentivized modding as opposed to increased modding.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. And I don't know how you deal with that, like how you deal with the two sides of the coin there, because if you want to increase our like power as much, like we kind of have, for example, when you look at things like where Bethesda puts its resources, if we don't have a big community, like we don't have a ton of Nexus users or a bunch of users using free mods, we become less relevant. So we need to keep bringing in more people. So we need to make it easier so that people don't just go to Bethesda.net or don't just go to the paid stuff. Like if we got to keep our audience growing, and I think the easiest way to do that is to make things simpler. And so like I don't know how to deal with the fact that, like you said, you're right. Like the people want to have their recognition because that's the only thing we get for doing it. So without that, it makes it pretty hard to justify spending the time. Like I know some people will argue like, oh, well, if you're passionate about it, you'll do it no matter what. But I mean, realistically, like we all want to know that our stuff is appreciated. Otherwise, we're not going to do much of it.
I mean, a lot of people's best systems comes from the fact of them holding a gun to your head and saying, do it or else. But in this regard, I think you're right in the sense that even if it's fake incentive, like you get no money from having all those endorsements or shouting off in the forums, it's still seemingly an incentive. And what's made the Nexus successful, I think, is the fact that it's mod author focused as opposed to like user focused. So, but it's as you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's like a lot of users don't want to spend 5 hours installing lots and lots of single mods.
Yeah, I think there's definitely good arguments on either side. I don't know who's right. And like I think for new authors, like I think they'd be happy to have their stuff included in a pack, just know other players are using it. It's I think a lot of people who, like for example, if I look at all of the people who are doing add-on packs for Sim Settlements, like they're happy to have their stuff used, even though like essentially people give me the credit, like but they're very excited to participate and contribute. And I think you could have that happen with mod packs, but I think it needs to be from the outset. Like it can't, like the idea of just taking other people's mods and putting them in a mod pack probably won't work, but having a collection of people work together and something like I'm trying to think who's the group that does like the cross stuff. They have a bunch of like really cool equipment and outfit mods. Like the Cross Cybernetics is part of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know what you're talking about, but I know Nero did.
I can't think of the group, but if you go to a lot of the cool, like the Cross Cybernetics is the one I can think of off the top of my head. But at the bottom of their page, they have like 30 different mods that their group has created. And I think like that would be a group they could do an awesome mod pack. Like just like they're advertising all that stuff together, like create a mod pack of it. And now a bunch of players could like experience all of your group's stuff at once. And like that's the type of thing where I think a mod pack could probably work for both sides.
Is this just not Nero himself?
Is that all just his stuff? I always assumed that there was always other names on a lot of that stuff. Like, but maybe that's just because he works with a lot of random other people.
Yeah, he works with Kite, which is like who's a kind of hentai. Well, I wouldn't say hentai, but like kind of a kind of an adult artist who kind of inspires his outfits. And like, Nero's like an excellent mod author. So, but yeah, like I don't think that's a mod pack. I would say Skyrim Gems. I mean, if you're around to see that, which basically put a bunch of mods in like a kind of mod pack, was more like that.
Where people grouped up voluntarily to make it.
Yeah. But like maybe like the Creation Club system's the best in the sense that it's single mods, but they're really easy to install. If you know what I mean. Like in and out,
yeah.
So if I don't like you just download the mod. It's in your thing as DLC, and it's like you can install at any point in your playthrough. I don't think I think they mentioned in the E3 that you could uninstall it, but like I haven't seen that yet. But like that system might be best, and that's kind of the same as the paid Minecraft system, which is like similar to Creation Club for the Windows 10 version of Minecraft as well, where you only buy single things as opposed to like mod packs and stuff.
And this could be one of those things where it just gets easier in the future because with each, especially with Bethesda stuff, now that they're officially supporting mods, like there's actually a mods menu, I think they're going to keep giving us more functionality and more stuff in the creation kit with each new game to make it less likely our stuff is incompatible. Like for like now we've got tons of scripts to easily like detect other mods and change our mod on the fly. So I think it'll get to the point where most of the most popular mods should just naturally be compatible with everything because there's less and less reason to edit vanilla records. And then we can have a situation where people could go to like Nexus top files and know that like the first 50 mods will probably all work together.
Definitely. I mean, there's always going to be a few mods every generation that modifies every vanilla record and affects some people's mods. Not mentioning any names.
Sorry about that, guys.
All right. Kinggath, thanks for joining us. Have I got your name finally right?
Close enough.
Okay. Probably.
Thank you, my liege.
My liege. Thank you, my highness. Thank you for honouring us with your presence. I'm looking forward to the next iteration of Sim Settlements. But in the meantime, we will be out. Bye, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care.